And there is a mention of animal suffering. And so just give me 1 second. There will be a mention of violence against human and non-human animals at the beginning. So if you are sensitive to those, please take care of yourself. If you like to just get up and leave for a second, please do. It will be just at the beginning. And today I'm really excited to invite Steph here today. Steph is a senior software engineer with almost a decade of experience in the tech industry. She is passionate about protecting the digital privacy and security of activists in Asia and has helped raise the awareness about digital security for many years now. In her free time, Steph likes to eat vegan food, climb outdoors, and spend time with her 2 cats and wife. Today's workshop's title is Digital Privacy and Safety Activists. Digital surveillance is commonplace nowadays, not only by state governments, but also by large corporations. For this workshop, we'll be going through digital security practices to help protect yourself from invasive surveillance activities. So without further ado, please welcome Steph.
Thank you so much, Kaho. Let me just share my screen so we can get started. Okay, I think, yeah. Can you see my screen now? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so today I'll be talking about the digital privacy and safety for activists. This will be mostly setting you up with tools and also motivation for why you need those tools and some theories sprinkled in between. It will be quite long, but we will have a break somewhere in the middle. And as Kaho said, there will be some mentions of violence against humans and non-human animals. So yeah, please feel free to leave if that is triggering. And let's see. Oh, and also big thank you to the organizers for organizing this, and also to Kaho for her infinite patience and feedback in helping make this happen. Yeah, so we can get started. So why is this important? You're in a high-risk group. I tried to make this sound nicer, but I think it's really important to understand that as activists, you are more targeted than other people. So for example, in 2020, more than 200 environmental defenders were killed. And a lot of them are people from the global south. And for example, my home country, the Philippines, had 29, which is the 3rd highest. And they're under President Duterte's regime. So these were people who were murdered. And another example was that a climate activist was jailed in India because she shared something in a Google Doc, and her name was tied to it. So what happened was that Ms. Thunberg initially tweeted a link to the toolkit, which Indian authorities say was proof that the young Swedish activist is part of an international conspiracy against India. And so the tweet was later deleted. The Indian activist, Disha, was connected to this Google Doc because she herself made an edit or an annotation. And so the Indian government penalized her by arresting her. And another example, there were some Azerbaijani animal rights activists who were arrested before they even had a chance to conduct their protest. So there were suspicions of their digital activity being tracked by police or local governments. So this is how surveillance and also being an activist actually puts you in the high-risk group. And also you can actually check on Google, Google's transparency report, which countries and an aggregation of all of those countries have made requests of their citizens and residents. So in this graph, you can see that the Philippines made around roughly like 6 requests a year since July 2015 of their citizens and residents. So some of these can be innocuous, such as like preservation requests, but some of them could also be actually like legal requests because they want to let's say, spy on their own citizens. And so this is the percentage of information of where information was disclosed. So in January 2018, for example, all of the requests that the Philippine government asked of Google was acknowledged, and Google handed over data of their users to the Philippine government. So yeah, I would like all of you to also try and do this exercise. So please open a private browser tab and go to this link, transparencyreport.google.com/userdata, and select your country. And I want you to look at it and internalize how much your country requests data of its citizens and residents. And if you could share in the chat or just say it briefly, I would be interested to know as well. Did everybody get a pretty good idea of how much their home country or their adopted country or their residents asks for resident information now?
Steph, can you see the chat box?
I cannot.
Okay, I'm gonna read it for you. So
Yeah.
I did it myself for Canada, and it was 80%. Pakistan, they said that it's not on the list because they have a surveillance laws. And I also just checked Japan, and it's about 82% as well. And other participants, 25% in the Philippines. And yeah, other participants, please check and see what it is for you in your country. Someone says 1 to 2 requests for Vietnam.
That's pretty good.
Spain, 75%, 442 petitions last year. 85% for Singapore. Hawking asked, the emergency disclosure requests mean private information being shared?
Sorry?
Hawking asked, the emergency disclosure request, I think that is on the website. Does it mean that our private information is being shared?
I'm not entirely sure, but I have a feeling that it has to do with any legal like recourse or action, or for example, like if one is suspected to be a if one is suspected to be, how to say this, I don't want to say enemy of the state, but someone who's not considered a friend of the government, I think, yeah, maybe that those are those cases.
Okay, I see. Another person says 76% for Malaysia, 40,000 requests for Thailand, and 76% request. There's a lot of data, so I'm also confused with what I'm looking at now. Yeah, if you could take over, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of these requests usually include like something like, oh, can you hand us the activity of your users? Like, what have they been up to, and what have they been what has their browsing activity been, and also like it could also include like location data or browsing habits and so on. In some really extreme cases, like they will ask for your emails or your Google Drive contents. Yeah, so and I'm not sure which of those like kinds of requests are bucketed, whether it's like legal or emergency disclosure and so on. But yeah, you can imagine that these are the kinds of requests like in the totality that is being asked by governments to companies like Google. Other companies such as Facebook, Meta, and I think even TikTok also have transparency reports. So you can also check like what kinds of data is being requested from governments and what kinds of data they're actually handing over as well. So like if you look at this graph, it says, okay, only some of the information is disclosed, not all of them in comparison to this, which like seems, yeah, that's great. It's not so much like, you know, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't be worried. I think that's like an attitude that a lot of people have, but it's also important to know that attitudes change, laws change, and whatever you're doing now may not necessarily be socially or accepted by a legal framework in a few years from now. So it's always better to be proactive about your digital security. All right, and so this is just like a small section on the Google policy website where they only in some cases object to producing any information at all. A lot of the time they will hand over information because they are required to work with local governments in order to comply. So it also does have to do with compliance. So yeah, just big tech is not on your side. Don't trust them, just be skeptical. And if you do have to use their tools, then try and secure yourself so that at least you can make their job harder and not easier. Yeah, so just a quick survey. How many people in this call are already using some form of tools for digital privacy, such as like a VPN, PGP keys, or password manager?
Someone in the chat said I use VPN. I think I saw someone raise their hand as well. Someone said they changed their web browser for a safer one for users. I personally use Proton Mail sometimes, but not for all the work because Google Gmail is like much more, I guess, like common and people don't really like be skeptical. Like they don't see it as like, oh, what is this? What is this like? What this? Yeah. Anyone else? You can please type your experience in chat. Have you used any better protection service? Alia from Pakistan said, I don't use any VPN, and according to new laws in Pakistan, VPN will be tracked by government. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. With the case for Pakistan, that's interesting. I'll try and think of ways of how to like better secure yourself when such a law exists. I'm sure there's a way. There are a bunch of hackers all over the world who have like, it's not the first time that people have been threatened by their government that you cannot use a VPN. So yeah. Let's see. Okay, then we can just like move on. Right. So let's get started. Just open whatever browser you usually use right now. So going forward, we'll be doing a bit of like setting you up with tools, and then like along the way, I'll also like say some theory / motivation on why it's important, because I think, you know, if somebody tells you like, yeah, click this button without telling you what this button is, maybe you don't want to click it. So once you have a browser opened, let's type mozilla.org in your address bar. Yeah, if you already have Firefox installed, you don't have to do this. This is for people who are not using Firefox yet as their primary browser. Um, all right, once that's done, please select Firefox for desktop under Firefox browsers. And yeah, you should be able to download the browser. And so please download it. It's the first step to securing your digital privacy online. It seems really basic, but this is our gateway to the rest of the world via the internet. So we should try and make this as secure and as robust as possible. Yeah, this is probably going to take a while because I think it's about 150 megabytes or 200. So maybe we can take this time for people to ask questions, or I don't know if they have any comments.
Yeah, I just finished downloading.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, there was a question in the chat. What about using a different browser like DuckDuckGo? I use that on my phone.
Yeah, that's DuckDuckGo is a company that I trust, and they are very committed to privacy and security. So that's like a good browser to use for your mobile phone. And I would say if you would be using a browser in your mobile phone, it would be either like DuckDuckGo or Firefox or yeah, either one of those.
There is another comment in chat. Do from Thailand said he uses VPN and DNS, but he doesn't know what it's really used for.
That's great. I have a little slide about how it actually works later. So yeah, well, hopefully that will be helpful.
Perfect.
Do people need more time?
Yeah, please share in chat how you're doing with your downloading. Oh, someone said finished downloading already. Another person said they also finished downloading.
Okay, so once your browser has finished downloading, please install it. And once installation is finished, then we can move on to the next steps.
Another question coming in from in the chat. Anami, I think she asked, why not Google Chrome?
Well, it's made by Google, and it's yeah, I think generally it's just not trusted by people who care about their digital privacy and security. Google Chrome browser, I believe, uses the open source Chromium for as a source, but I'm not sure because I generally just don't use their tools in the first place unless I really have to, like for work. But yeah, I think generally when a tool is closed source or is owned by a big tech company and it's free, you should be suspicious because if it's free, that means you are the product, your location, your browsing habits, your private data, and so on is probably being aggregated and being sold to data harvesters and advertisers. So that's generally why I just would stray away from tools made by Google, including the browser. And it's gotten slower over the years. But yeah.
There's another question in the chat.
Mhm.
Trajan asked, is Google Chrome not safe even in the incognito mode?
I mean, I don't know entirely, to be honest. I think for me, it's really just coming from a place of like skepticism. I just don't use their tools at all. Um, yeah, I think if you're using incognito mode on Google Chrome, that's better than not using it at all. Because at least like your cookies will be deleted after a session, your browsing history will be deleted after a session, and so on. But yeah, if you use incognito mode with a VPN, maybe that's good enough for the place you live in. Because in the end, it's also up to the like sophistication of like your local government, right? But in my opinion, it's just better to be like as secure as possible, because every year, that technology makes it easier and easier for people to surveil you.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. So I just opened Firefox on my screen.
Awesome. Okay, so should we try securing your Firefox browser then? If you go to settings and then go to privacy and security, that should take you to a page with like a lot of different options. And we can go through the different options that you need to enable to make your browser more secure. And yeah, so it should look something like this. Like on the right, you have it says browser privacy on the very top, and you can select options. So yeah, please select strict enhanced tracking protection. This means that social media trackers will no longer be enabled, including other tracking content. So for example, like if there's a cookie that's tracking your browsing behavior, like they will try, like Firefox will try its best to like disable it. You can also ask Firefox to send websites a do not track signal. So you can just select allow. It's somewhere here on the bottom. And then check delete cookies and site data when Firefox is closed. If you are visiting like certain websites very frequently though, and you trust it, then you can add it to exceptions here, like under manage exceptions, so that you don't have to keep logging in. So for example, like I add my mail provider, Proton Mail, in the exceptions, where cookies do not have to be deleted, because I don't necessarily want to have to authenticate myself like every time for a single day. And if it's too fast or you need me to move back a slide, let me know.
Yeah, please do let us know in the chat if you need more time setting this up. I just opened the settings and I'm trying to find, right, browser privacy. And then you're gonna select strict.
Yes.
Right.
And then below that, there's like a very small section that says send websites that do not track signal. So also select always, sorry, not allow, always. And also check delete cookies and site data.
So select delete cookies and site data. Okay.
Yeah, when Firefox is closed. And and like I mentioned earlier, if there's like some websites that you trust and that you visit often, you can add it to the exceptions under manage exceptions button right next to the delete checkbox.
Great. There's one question in the chat. How do we know what websites can be trusted with cookies? What about Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube?
Yeah, I would just not add those to the exceptions at all. Basically, any social media website will track your activity, and their business model is to sell you stuff. And to sell you stuff, they will have to sell your data to advertisers. But if you live in somewhere like the EU, for example, where there's GDPR policies, then you're a bit better protected because they cannot sell you they cannot just take your individual user data and sell that. It has to be aggregated with other people's data, and it has to be an approximation instead of just like a single user. But for the rest of the world, I'm not as familiar with the laws, but I would imagine like in the US, for example, like they don't care, like they will just take your single user data and sell it. So I wish I had included this in this presentation, but you can actually ask Google, if you have a Google account, for what they think your profile is. So it will tell you you're between 18 and 25 years old, you probably have a bachelor's degree, you like rock climbing, you like animals, and so on. Like this is the kind of data you can request Google. And for my browsing habits, I mean, they got it completely wrong, but still, like it was scary that they are even able to do this. Like especially if you're not securing yourself against such tracking from tech companies and websites. But
Yeah, thank you. How are people doing? Do you think we can move on? Please let us know in the chat if you need more time. Hedo said he finished following the steps.
okay, awesome.
Yeah, I think we can slowly move on to the next step.
Okay, cool. So now let's enable HTTPS only mode in all windows. And you'll see why it's important in the next slide. But for now, let's just enable it to make sure that the websites you visit are secure and that it is the website they say it is. So this section is still on the same page under privacy and security. And so you just scroll down and then you'll see under security, HTTPS only mode. All right. So what is HTTP versus HTTPS? Well, HTTPS is the secure version of HTTP. That's why there's S in the end. HTTP means Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and that's the protocol for websites for one to be able to visit a website essentially, and for websites to be able to go from one website to the next. So how is HTTPS more secure? So it's more secure by using this technology called TLS or SSL. And it ensures it by making sure that the website you're visiting is indeed what it says it is. So in that form, it is authentication. And that the message or content you're seeing has not been modified while it was being transported from the server to your device. And that the message or content is private, even if it's intercepted, so that it's private and encrypted. So what does this mean? Let's see, I have a diagram. So let's say I have my phone. I'm trying to go to wikipedia.org, but because I'm using HTTPS, which is verified by or authenticated by a trusted certificate authority. These are different organizations that have been that are part of some kind of consortium that basically authenticate the websites and the owner of those websites, or not necessarily the owner of those websites, but let's say the managers, that it is that the website it is what it says it is. And so you have like SSL and TLS. SSL or TLS enabled for HTTP. So in other words, HTTPS when you visit a website. So basically, when I visit Wikipedia, sorry, not basically, when I visit wikipedia.org with the HTTPS enabled, what this means is that when I access wikipedia.org, I can trust that it is wikipedia.org because it has been certified by a certificate authority, and that's one of the guarantees of TLS or SSL. In addition, if there was an attacker who tried to intercept the message between Wikipedia and myself, they would not be able to read the message at all because it would just look like a bunch of jumbled numbers and letters. And so that's the kind of guarantee that TLS or SSL through HTTPS gives you. So that's why it's really important for you to use HTTPS when visiting websites. Even if you don't understand this, like this part, at least just know that, you know, this part, like where if somebody tries to sniff or surveil your activity using some kind of tool, then they will not be able to see what you're browsing. I guess like a good example would be like if you go to a cafe and you're using free Wi-Fi and you're not using HTTPS, and you're just using HTTP, like somebody like me could just use a tool like Wireshark and actually figure out who's visiting what website. But if you use HTTPS, it makes it so much harder and actually almost impossible to know what Wikipedia.org is serving you, what you're browsing basically. And so after that, let's just uncheck all the boxes under Firefox data collection and use. Firefox will, if you don't uncheck this, like Firefox will try and figure out like your activity with the browser. So basically, like if your browser suddenly crashes, like it will send statistics to Firefox and so on. Generally, it's more around like the browser performance than anything else, but still, you're still sending data to some other entity, to some other server of your activity. So I just generally don't want to send them anything. So just uncheck it all. That way, your browser activity is yours alone, and nobody else has to know it, even if it's just like the health of the browser that is being sent.
So now we're unchecking all the boxes under Firefox data collection and use in the same setting.
Yes, under privacy and security. So if you just keep scrolling down, you'll see it.
Okay, so when I unchecked the first box, it gave me a notice saying you are no longer allowing Mozilla to capture technical and interaction data. All past data will be deleted within 30 days.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay,
that's
great.
what we want.
How are people doing? And yeah, thank you, Anami, for answering some of the questions. Gulam asked how is Zoom not work better on Chrome? And he read somewhere that Zoom is not stable on Firefox. So Anami said that you have to kind of pick and choose when to use Google Chrome and kind of differentiate between the activism work and like your work, like data, and use different browsers.
Yeah, exactly. You can also try and using the Zoom app because Zoom has their own app if you're fine with that. Yeah. Oh, a good alternative to Chrome that actually functions almost exactly like Chrome, but it's not so predatory like Chrome is Brave, the Brave browser. It's built with like privacy and security primitives out of the box. So that means that like you have to do very little or almost nothing to be digitally secure. And yeah, it uses the same browser engine underneath. So whatever works in Chrome will also work on Brave.
Srajan from Nepal said he uses Brave.
Awesome. Yeah, that's already a good tool to have in your kit. Right. So I'll move on to the next slide. If people still need time, yeah, just feel free to say in the chat. Then I can wait a minute more or so. Right. I guess I'll move on then. So now let's make Firefox as your default browser. So this means that whenever you click on a link, when you're on a different app, for example, or like, I don't know, if you're using a mail app such as Thunderbird or Apple Mail, and there's a link there, it will open Firefox instead of Safari or Chrome or whatever your default browser was before.
So now we're going to settings. So the first, like the wheel type of icon, and then
Under General.
under General.
I think it should be somewhere on top.
Yes.
Check.
Which one are we clicking?
Make default.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are people doing? Okay, I think some are done.
Okay. Good. So yeah, that's actually it. Now you have a pretty secure browser setup. You can safely surf the internet now with peace of mind that you're being tracked less, that you're browsing websites with encryption, and yeah, that your user behavior data should be less granular. So meaning it will be harder for people to figure out what your browsing habits are. But a browser principle for you to remember is the fewer extensions and plugins you have, the better. Because if you have extensions and plugins such as, I don't know, even like an innocent ad blocker, like it's still pretty easy for attackers to hijack a plugin through the plugin or extension store. And the extensions and plugins can also have malicious behavior baked into it as well. And when I say malicious, I don't necessarily mean like straight up hacking or so on. I mean, surveillance, tracking your activity, and so on. That kind of behavior will not be captured by the browser because you are allowing extensions and plugins to basically exist in your browser and bypass the other security measures that you've taken. So yeah, the fewer extensions and plugins you have, the better. For search, I use DuckDuckGo.com. So if there's anything you need to surf on the internet, please use DuckDuckGo. If you can't find anything on DuckDuckGo, you can actually still use Google through DuckDuckGo by searching. Let me see if I can make a demo here. Okay, I think now you should see my browser, right? Okay, so if I go here, and let's say I wanna search something here, and PGP, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not happy with the results. I'm sure Google is better, would give me better results because like their whole business model is around search and ads. Then what I can do is I can add G and exclamation mark in the end, and it will search to Google without my user data, basically. So it won't have tracking behavior. It will basically send like a do not track signal if I search from DuckDuckGo. And there's also other shortcuts that you can use for DuckDuckGo for other websites, like YouTube, for example, would be YT and exclamation mark, and it will search to YouTube for me without any kind of like tracking, so on. So like usually when you search something or click on something from Google, like you'll actually see like other like, how to say this, like random numbers and letters towards the end. That's like a tracking link. But with DuckDuckGo, that doesn't exist. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, please set DuckDuckGo as your default search engine so that it builds good habits for you to use DuckDuckGo. And even if DuckDuckGo doesn't have the result that you want right away, then it at least forces you to build another habit, which is using the G exclamation mark at the end or YT exclamation mark at the end. Yeah, and also please uncheck provide search suggestions. So this is all under settings and search in Firefox.
Okay, so now we're under settings, search, and then under default search engine, you can select DuckDuckGo.
Yep.
And are we unchecking the search suggestions?
Or
is it next
sorry?
step?
Yes, please uncheck search suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are people doing? Please let us know in chat if you are done. Okay, Sophia said done. Yeah, a few more people said done. I think we can slowly move on.
Awesome. Then let's have a break. I think that was a lot. And maybe like 2 or 3 minutes would be good, because going forward, we'll have even more, like we'll talk about encryption some more and about VPNs, how networking works, like on a very surface level. So yeah, need to cleanse your mind a bit and take a short break, take a breather. So see you all in, let's say, 3 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. Steph, there's a few questions in the chat. Are you up for answering during the break? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So someone, Sophia asked, what's the reason for unchecking search suggestions?
That's a very good question. So I'm not sure how the search suggestions implementation works exactly on, I guess, like Firefox. But I studied computational linguistics in university, and I know for a fact that search suggestions are made by getting statistical data from people's search history. So that means that whenever you search something on the search bar, that gets sent to some server, or it gets tracked somewhere, and they put that, like whatever you tracked, onto some language model. So like a black box, you can imagine, where they just put all of the data that you submitted into, and then that language model spits out like the search suggestions. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Steph. Joaquin said he has been using Firefox, but now he has been using Firefox, but with Google search. Now he just changed to DuckDuckGo. Great.
Yay, that's awesome.
Yeah. Lolita, she asked, do you have any suggestions for securing EXIF data?
So EXIF data, is that for photos or?
Lolita said
Let me
yes
double
for
check.
photos.
Yeah. Yeah, so for photos, generally you want to scrub like the metadata. It's a bit more advanced. And there are tools that you can use, open source. So I know exactly which tool actually. But let me get the link for you. Data. Because it does require a bit more involvement. And you need to be comfortable with. Oh yeah, well my internet is really atrocious. Okay, so there's this tool called EXIF Scrubber. It's pretty old, but it works. And it will remove the metadata from your photos. There's probably more modern tools out there, but you can just search like EXIF Scrubber or yeah, metadata remover, and it will be, as long as it's open source, like you can generally trust it. But I don't know what's the best way for me to disseminate this information. Should I just send it to you, Kaho, and then you can send it to participants?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Otherwise, I believe there's some tools I list in the end that might list this. Yeah, here, this is even better. There you go. So at the end of the presentation, I'm going to be sharing this website, privacyguides.org. And what it does is they have different kinds of software recommended to make your browsing and online activity more secure. So the kind of tool that Lolita was asking earlier is data and metadata redaction. So it's not only for EXIF formats, but also other formats that you can do, like even PDFs, JPEGs, PNGs. So you can use this tool called EXIF Cleaner or MAT2, or EXIF Eraser for if you're on mobile and so on. So there are a lot of different tools available out there. Yeah, but yeah, this is actually privacyguides.org. I've linked it to the end of my presentation, so you can take a look for yourself what other software is available for you to use. Yeah, I think a break is over, so should we start? Awesome, great. Yeah, let's do a quick round of intros actually. So now it's like breakout. So just short introduction of your name and your country.
Yeah, thank you. So we have quite a lot of people. So I want to use a breakout room. Steph, if you could stop this share screen for just 1 second. And then Wendy, if you could maybe group maybe 5 people in the group. 5 for each. And so just a round of introduction. So your name, pronounce, what you do. What else should we share, Steph?
I think that's sufficient.
It's good. Okay.
For how many minutes?
I think 5 would be enough for 5 people.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm going to start the room now.
great. So if you'd like to stay in the main room, please just reject going into the breakout room. Otherwise, please interact with the other participants.
Wait, oh, I need to share my screen. Sorry. Can you see the presentation now? Okay, awesome. So other than the people in your breakout room, there are probably other entities outside who also knows where you are. So I want you to open ip.me on Firefox, and a lot of you probably already know what's going to happen next, but it's still, I think, a fun exercise to do.
So now we're typing in ip.me in the Firefox.
On the browser. And I think you can click the blue button. There's a blue button there, and it will tell you what your IP address is, and basically what city, what country, and where you're sitting at, what your latitude and longitude is, which is pretty scary. It got my postal code correct. So yeah, it even knows who my internet provider is. It's Vodafone. It's correct. Yeah, it's pretty good at most tools that are tracking IP addresses are pretty good at triangulating your location now and figuring out who your internet provider is. Which is why oh, so how did that happen? Well, so this is me. I'm Steph. I tried to access the IP.me server, but in between are the different internet service providers, such as Singtel, Tata, or Vodafone. And what happens is that my traffic just went directly to IP.me server, and these intermediate internet service providers will know what server I'm visiting. So like the flow of communication from myself to IP.me server doesn't just happen between me and IP.me server. It also goes through the internet service providers, because that's how the internet works. This is why you should use a VPN, because what happens then is, like, if you use, this is me, I have a VPN client, and if you use a VPN client, you will still go through your internet service providers, but instead of going to the IP.me server right away, it will first go to the VPN server, and then the VPN server then routes your request to the IP.me server. Anybody have any questions around this, either this slide or this slide? This is overly simplified, by the way, but I think it gets the core ideas of how a VPN works and how traffic and how a user interacts with a server. Right. So if there are no questions, oh, okay. And so if you're not using a VPN yet, please do. So let's get a VPN. We can get a free one from Proton Mail, or now they call themselves Proton. You can get one for free. I really just like this design pattern where the sign up for free button is like on the bottom right, and it's super hard to see, but it is available for free. And so you can get one without having to pay. So yeah, please sign up, go through the sign up process. If you already have a Proton Mail account, you can just log in and then you can download the app. Let's see. So please, after you sign up, download the app and install it on your device.
So now we're just going to proton.com, and I think you can sign up for free and just download the VPN. Joaquin asked, will this lower his internet connection?
I'm not sure what you mean by lower, but it will be a little bit slower, because what happens is you're essentially adding another trip to your it's not so straightforward just from going here from the user to the IP.me server, right? You're adding an extra, like, basically bus stop. And if you add an extra bus stop, it will naturally take longer. But that also means that, like, your browsing activity will not be tracked by the ISPs. by the internet service providers. Yeah, so the reason why it becomes slower is because it has one more server to hit, and then IP.me server actually returns, communicates back to the VPN server, which then communicates back to you. So it's a longer trip overall for your data that you're trying to access, and that's being returned to you. All right. Then please open Proton VPN and click on Quick Connect and wait until you're connected. If you already have a VPN, you don't have to do this. And once you're connected, I want you to go to ip.me again and click on IP lookup. And I want to know like what you see. And hopefully it's no longer the place where you actually live. How are people doing in this part?
Yeah, let us know if you need more time. If you have finished downloading, let us know. Joaquin said, is it true some free VPN services actually spy your data?
I haven't done any research on this, but essentially what happens when you use a VPN is you are routing your traffic through the VPN. So they will have access to what you're browsing. So it's really important that you use one that's trusted by privacy experts. So that's why I use Proton VPN, because it's what's recommended by privacy guides, and also Prism Break, which is another privacy-focused toolkit website, which I will also share the link of later. And this is also why it's important to actually regularly check whether the VPN is still recommended by privacy experts, because landscapes change, company motivations change. And so it's really important to keep up to date. But yeah, Proton is generally pretty trustworthy. A lot of journalists use Proton Mail. A lot of activists use Proton Mail and Proton VPN. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes a minute or so to install.
Okay.
We're doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know if you're done.
Also, another VPN that I can really recommend, it is, however, paid, but if your privacy is really, really important, if your physical safety is being threatened, then please use Mullvad. It's mullvad.net. You can buy vouchers or pay with crypto to use their service. And so it can, and even pay with cash. So literally you put cash in an envelope and send it to them. And they would never have to know who you are. And so in that way, it's super secure. Like they don't know who's accessing their VPN server. All they have is like a numeric hash ID or some kind of hash ID. So that means like a jumble of numbers of letters identified to you. So it's the most secure VPN there is, in my opinion. And it's also another one that's highly recommended by privacy experts. How are people doing?
I think those said done.
Okay.
How about others? They're still installing.
Okay.
Maybe give it a minute or so.
Mm-hmm.
So when I select downloads, I see different options for application like Android, iOS, Windows, Mac OS. I would just choose like my computers, like
Yeah,
right. Okay.
exactly.
Someone just joined. Anna, thank you. They'll ask in case someone have to use risky website with a lot of spam and phishing. Is there any way to use those websites safely?
No, I would say just not to use the website. But if you really absolutely have to, then the steps that we've taken so far with, using strict enhanced protection on Firefox, disabling cookies, and so on, using incognito mode plus the VPN, it will get you, I would say, 80 to 90% of the way there when it comes to safety. But yeah, I can't ensure 100%.
Wow, Joaquin, who is joining from Uruguay, said he's now in Netherlands and he's traveling. Great. I think it's working for people now.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So now that you have Proton VPN, you can also use Proton Mail. So emails to other Proton Mail accounts are automatically encrypted. I will talk about what encryption means in a little bit. Please encourage other activists, friends, and family to use Proton Mail just because it provides you with encryption out of the box, and you don't have to do any like fancy stuff like that I can explain later, which is a bit more complicated. So like some of that fancy stuff is, for example, if you're emailing to somebody who's not a user of Proton Mail, you can encrypt emails to them by enabling PGP under settings and go to settings. So let me see if I can do this on. Well, let me just pause my screen share. Where's my browser? Are people able to find this page on Proton Mail?
So now we're going to from where they sign up themselves, they can look up the Proton Mail.
Yeah. So you can go to protonmail.com and then sign in. Let me share my screen actually. Yeah, can you see Proton Mail on my screen? So just click sign in and then enter your email or username and your password. I'm gonna pause sharing again. My inbox is super messy, so I'm embarrassed to show it. But if once after you log in, you'll see settings on the top right next to your name. And then when you click on settings, there's an option to go to settings directly below settings. And so please click on that.
Your screen is, I think, paused.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
can you see now? So when you click on go to settings, this is what you should see. And then please go to encryption and keys below. It's right here on the bottom left. And please enable sign external messages and attach public key.
Okay, I'm not sure how everyone's doing, but I'm still logging in. How are people doing?
Awesome.
Yeah, a few people said they're done.
All right. Then I'll wait a minute more for the rest.
So you go to settings
Yeah,
and then go to settings.
and then encryption and keys, which is on the menu bar on the left, on the bottom left. Are you able to see it?
Encryption and keys. Is it under security? Do I have to click on that or?
No, it should be under encryption and keys. So it's
I
really
see it.
far down. Yeah.
And then you will click on external messages and attach public key.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and let's see.
Anam ask, is there a way to send encrypted emails with Google or Gmail?
I don't know. I haven't tried. I don't use Gmail. Yeah, please use Proton Mail. It just gives you encryption out of the box. I suppose like what you can do if you want to send encrypted emails with Gmail is to ask people. Yeah, actually, this should work. Is to use PGP keys. So you can generate a PGP key for yourself from the command line. It's a bit higher hurdle. Even for me, it's like I have to remember how to do it. So I have to open a guide and then do it myself because like there's just so many steps. But essentially what happens is you create a public key that you distribute to other people, and then other people can encrypt their message to you with that public key, and then only you can decrypt it because only you have the private key to be able to read that message. So yeah, what I just described to you is encryption, and this is why it's really useful. Is because, for example, if I send a message hello, and let's say I send a message hello to Kaho, and I have Kaho's public key, that means that message will then look like a bunch of random numbers, letters, symbols, and only Kaho can decrypt it with her private key. And so she can read the message, hello. So there is some guarantee that only Kaho is able to read the message, and that only I am able to also, so basically that only me and Kaho know what that message is. And this can be accomplished with PGP for encryption. So what I just described that you can do for Google Mail as well, for example, is you can attach a public key. When you send an email to somebody on Proton Mail and they do not have Proton Mail, then my public key gets attached automatically, as you can see here. And what this means is that the receiver, and actually this was an email to Kaho about this workshop, the receiver can then use the public key, my public key, to encrypt a message and send me that message back. So that message should then be, jumbled, and only I can decrypt it with my private key that is given to me by my either GPG local tool or Proton Mail, and so on. So you can actually do the same. Now that I think about it, you can do the same for Gmail if you produce your own public key from the command line. It's a bit higher involvement, but I would be happy to do like another workshop, which is like a bit more involved, like for example, regarding around scrubbing metadata and what PGP is, how to use it if you don't use Proton Mail, and so on, and like really dive deeply into it if people are interested. Maybe we can organize something. I don't know. It means more work for Kaho probably. I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is how you would send encrypted emails with Google Mail and also with Proton Mail. Basically, since it is what we're doing here is we're sending a PGP key for people to use so that they can encrypt your messages to be sent back to you. With Proton Mail, you don't have to do any of these things because things are automatically encrypted. That's a nice thing about it. So you kind of don't have to think about it. It's lower barrier to entry. It's private and secure by default. Right. So actually, this thing on the bottom of my slides, that's my PGP fingerprint. That means that if you use this to send me a message, then you can send me like encrypted messages instead of like unencrypted messages. You can also look this up on, I forgot which PGP server I uploaded it to, probably open. So if you go to keys, open PGP, you can search on DuckDuckGo and you can look up my fingerprint and you can verify that it is me sending this email from this address. Oh, 5 minutes left. So what is end-to-end encryption? End-to-end encryption means basically like I have a public key called from user B, and user B uses their private key to decrypt that message. Encryption is only between users, so there are no intermediary servers handling keys. So in comparison to the TLS SSL example, where there is like a server who is like handling the key and so on in the form of the TLS certificate, with end-to-end encryption, it's really just between you and the person you're communicating with. Only the two of you are exchanging keys with one another. Nobody else. Nobody should have access to your keys. Nobody should even know what they are. So that's why I encourage all of you to use Signal. Please download it. It is end-to-end encrypted. And you might notice when you download Signal on your phone and then you send messages to somebody and then you open Signal on your desktop, you don't see the previous messages. That's because the private key on your phone is different from the private key on your desktop. That's why you cannot see the messages from before. However, this is how I know that WhatsApp and Telegram are not as safe, because I can see the messages from different devices all the way back to the first time I use it. That means that my private key is being stored somewhere. I just don't know where. And that probably means that private key is being stored by the servers of Telegram or WhatsApp. That's why I generally cannot recommend it, because that means that they can decrypt your content. WhatsApp says it's end-to-end encrypted, and I guess you can trust that to some degree. However, if you create backups of WhatsApp messages, your messages will be uploaded to Google Drive, which is not encrypted. So it like defeats the purpose of it. This is a very useful matrix of why you shouldn't be using WhatsApp and WhatsApp Business. WhatsApp Business doesn't even try to encrypt your messages. It's just like decrypted. Telegram, yeah, it's not open source. Servers have access to keys, and really, truly, Signal is the only secure messaging app out there. Yeah, and one more thing, please use a password manager. And please don't use the same password for every website. With a password manager, you can generate random passwords and keep it securely on this app without forgetting your password. 1Password is another good alternative. It is paid, however, but Bitwarden is free and open source, and it's very secure. I trust it. I use Bitwarden. Yeah. Other tools, privacyguides.org. I've mentioned this earlier, and Prism Break. So this will, you can go to these websites and they can recommend you other tools like, oh, how do I make myself more secure by, I don't know, removing metadata, or like if I need to share photos and so on, or like I need to do some Office document, Google Sheets, whatever, work, what's an alternative, is a good place to check. Yeah, so privacy is an ongoing practice. It doesn't stop after just downloading these tools and getting you set up. You also need to be an advocate for a more secure and privacy-focused digital world to ensure a censorship-resistant future. So it is an active act. It doesn't stop today. Please keep using the tools that we've used today, and also like encouraging other people to use it, because we can only be secure if everybody else also follows secure practices. Yeah, thank you for your time.